5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Highway of the Hidden, where the forgotten roads of history still breathe, and the night hides more than shadows. Here, the restless dead whisper in the dark, cryptids stalk the tree line, and conspiracies linger just out of sight. Every mile takes us deeper into the unknown, and every story carries a chill. So buckle up and join me as we take a ride down the highway.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Highway of the Hidden. I'm your host, Polar Bear. Tonight, we welcome back Mr. D.A. Roberts. D.A., how you doing, brother?
I'm good, dude. Thanks for having me back on.
Pleasure. Pleasure's all mine. I'm glad you're here, man. I've been listening to your show. You know, I've been working nights and stuff, and it seems like, and in just my opinion, maybe yours too, that the cryptids are really on a rise lately.
You know, it really seems to be, and that's something we've been kicking around for a while on our show. In the last few years, the not only are sightings on the rise, but so are violent encounters.
Yeah, I've seen that. And so, do you think the violence are gugways or the Genosquas or just regular old patty squatches?
You know, anytime you cross paths with a wild animal, and for all intents and purposes, we've got to view Bigfoot as a wild animal.
Right.
No matter how you view him, whether it's a relic population of hominid or whether it's a great ape, however you view it, it's a wild animal, basically. So it's got to be treated with the kind of respect you would have for any other wild animal. And there are going to be violent encounters with pretty much any wild animal, especially if you back it into a corner. So I think some of them could be some of the more violent, like Gugway or even Dogman. But I think a big chunk of it is just wrong place, wrong time.
Right. I think so too. I read one that was quite interesting and it piqued my interest and I had to reach out to you for it. And then you had mentioned it on your show, but that Colorado encounter, that just didn't, or not encounter, the two missing hunters in Colorado, that didn't sit right with me. I don't think.
What they called it lightning?
Yeah.
The total is up to 6 mysterious lightning deaths, 3 in that same area.
Okay, so it has to be something, right?
Something weird's going on.
Because, lightning, 6, and what is I forget what the percentage of your range of actually being struck by lightning is. It's something crazy.
They say on an average year in the United States, I believe it was around 25 people get struck, and not even all of them are fatalities. And then in the span of less than 2 months, we have 6, all hunters, all fatally killed within the span of 2 months.
Right. So it could definitely be, I'm not saying it's cryptid related, entertainment purposes only, but for what it sounds like, it could be. I've discussed this in the past, but it could, I think with Dogman, right? The Dogman encounters are usually, they're not, I don't think, let me back up. We jumped on Dogman real quick, but let me back up. So the Dogman encounters, right? They seem violent, but they're not violent, right? Because feel like if they would, you wouldn't survive.
Well, I think that there are more violent ones than we know about it, but I simply think that nobody's around or left to report it.
Right, and that's what I was getting at. So do you think it could be, I don't know if there's really been any reported Dogmen in Colorado, but
yes,
I know, have there been?
Did you hear about the incident in Meeker, Colorado last year?
No, what happened?
In Meeker, Colorado, there was a herd of cattle slaughtered. At first they tried to say that it was just a rogue pack of wolves that they'd been tracking, but a guy that owned them, because that was a lot of money for a cattle farmer to lose cattle. Right. He ordered he paid for an independent survey, independent study of it. And what they came back with, and you explained to me in this day and age when you could take a DNA swab from your dog and give it to your vet, and the vet can go, oh, this dog is 60% Rottweiler, 40%. Right. They can tell you down to like 2 percentage points what this dog's makeup is. And we've got that ability. Yet when that study came back, you know what it said?
What did it say?
Unknown canine.
Wow.
In this day and age, how is it an unknown canine?
Exactly. With all the breeding of the different types of dogs that come out, even the ones that they create out of nowhere, like their own bloodline. You're telling me, so it definitely could have been a Dogman encounter. Or
Well, a lot of the tracks were bipedal. They were canine looking, but had that extended heel pad and appeared to have been walking on their hind legs.
so there might be a wild pack of dogman running through Colorado
Very well
right
could
now
be.
that are just, but that's with everything, man. All kinds of cryptid sightings are going up, from Gugway sightings, Janosqua, and your typical, I call them patties because they're, they don't really, I don't really know the exact term for them, but I call them patties personally.
Close enough. Close
I
enough
mean,
of a description.
It's not they're more of the chill, you see one, you can just kind of.
That's not to say they can't be dangerous, but
Right.
like any wild animal, you've got to be in that situation where it's dangerous.
Right. And they just kind of go on about their day.
But you're right about the Gugway. Generally, Gugway encounters are dangerous.
Yeah,
And
they're coming
for
for
a
you.
long time, they only heard about Gugway attacks like up in the north, like along the Canadian border and even farther north in the colder states.
Mhm.
But in the last few years, I've taken what they described perfectly as a Gugway from Arkansas and East Texas.
Yeah, East Texas, that's right down the
Big
road.
thicket area.
Yeah, the big thicket, man. So have you had any of your own personal encounters recently, or like got any crazy ones that came across your desk?
We personally, just a few weeks ago, we went down to an area that I like to frequent called the Joe Bald Recreation Area. It's an old abandoned, I've told you about it before. It's an abandoned campground the Army Corps of Engineers shut down years ago. And we found the spine of a deer that had basically been ripped out of the deer and was stuck in a tree. And that's just not typical behavior of any predator I know.
No.
I'm not saying it was Bigfoot or Dogman or anything like that. It was just really weird. But we've also, had a number of people coming forward and saying they're having a lot of eye shine that they didn't normally have. One of the guys that I met at the conference recently, I met in person. I talked to him for a while. I won't say his name because I haven't asked permission to do that yet. But he was contacting me fairly regularly because a friend of his was having activity on her farm and they were trying to get in her house. So that was a fairly hairy situation. I've been working with them trying to find deterrent ways because they don't. Like me, they don't want to shoot one unless they absolutely have to. So we've been looking at, nonviolent deterrents to keep them away from her house. And last I knew, it was starting to work, but it may come a point where they move out of the area anyway, because I believe these things, they're not migratory, but much like a mountain lion, they have a range. For a family group of Bigfoot, that range has got to be enormous.
Yeah, it's got to, because they're not small,
Right.
They're 10 to 12 foot, man.
If you had a family group of Bigfoot that stayed in, say, 100-acre area all the time, in about a month, there'd be nothing left to eat there.
No, they would ravish it. And
yeah, squirrels, everything would be gone.
I'm like you. I don't agree with shooting one because I think that can of worms would open in that Pandora's box. You're not closing it. It would, the amount of stress it would cause you as a person if you shot one, because one, how are you going to get rid of it? And two, the people beating down your door. And I'm not talking about regular people like you and I beating down someone's
Like the
door.
government.
Yeah, we're talking the alphabet boys, and they're going to want to know what you did.
There's also another possibility if you take the shot. It's probably not alone.
Right. Yeah. And once
If
you
you
take
do
one
take
of
a
theirs,
shot at one, you're probably going to have to deal with the rest of the family, and they're not going to be happy.
No, and that too. And it's just one of those things that I think at that point. So what are some nonviolent deterrents people could do that are having this issue? Just a couple of them.
If they've got a lot of activity, especially up near their windows or their kids' windows, because they do seem to focus on women and children. You can go on Amazon, and for less than $20, you can buy a packet of 4 of these solar rechargeable lights. Buy a couple of those and put them where they're going to overlap around your house. They don't like those motion sensors. I truly believe they can see the IR spectrum, because I've talked to so many people that have said they found sticks stuck in the ground right at the edge of where their motion light comes on. So I think they can actually either see it or they can perceive it. But the IR spectrum is a bit of a deterrent because it's those motion cameras use the same type of IR as trail cams. And we all know they will avoid trail cams. You can put up those motion lights. You can put up You can put up trail cameras too, but there are other deterrent things you can do as well. Like you know what an air cannon is?
Yeah.
You can put one of those up. They don't like loud noises. They really don't. They don't like dogs either. But if you've got a dog in the house, at least the dog can give you a little warning. And if you don't want to, if you live someplace where you can't carry a firearm or you don't want to carry a firearm, I'll get you some bear spray. That's a non-lethal deterrent. And just certain changes in your behaviors, leaving lights on, making sure that because they will come in a house. There's lots of stories of them entering someone's home. Make sure your doors are locked. After a certain time, don't let your kids be outside. Like my grandparents used to tell me when I was a little kid, like, you better stay out of them woods when it gets dark and boogers will get you. And I never really put two and two together until I was a bit older. But I was like, oh, that's what they were warning me about. Because I'd heard the term Bigfoot, but I didn't know what they meant by booger. And of course, by the time I got into my teens, I'm like, oh, okay, I got you.
That's what they meant. Yeah,
that's exactly what they meant. But there's a number of things like that that you can do that are nonviolent. Another real easy one is fireworks.
Fireworks.
Yeah, it kind of simulates the sound of guns. Just set off fireworks at random times.
That's pretty cool, man.
And if you've got like a lot of heavy brush right up close to your house, cut it back.
Clear it out a little bit. Yeah, and
because they don't want to be seen.
I know they'll eat like your dog food, your trash, your cat food, whatever you have outside. Your garden. Yeah. So try to keep it locked up. Just try to deter them. Oh, they'll take your chickens. And that's, that for people that don't.
I had a buddy. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I had a buddy just the other day called me and said, hey, I think I got one on my property. I'm like, what makes you think that? He's like, somebody's taking my chickens. I'm like, you sure it ain't one of your neighbors? He goes, my closest neighbor's over a mile away, and he's got more chickens than I got. And he's got them coming up missing too. I'm like, dude, it could be a fox. It could be a raccoon. There's a lot of things could be taking your chickens. He goes, well, if it's a fox or a raccoon, it's 7 feet tall because it's undoing my latch and then relatching it when it comes out.
At least I'm like, polite, I guess.
That doesn't sound like a raccoon.
No. At least it's nice enough to lock your cage back.
Yeah, he said there's no gaps in the fence. There's no place it could have gotten under because he concreted it. He said there's no breaks in the chicken wire. He said, and it's not going over the top. It's undoing the latch, going in, taking chickens and coming back out.
Dang. Dude, that's insane. And like, we had our chickens come up missing. Well, not missing, but they had gotten attacked. I'll just say that. And I thought my coop was secure, and it ended up being a possum was eating them. Big old possum. I seen him, and I was like, oh, that little rascal.
I generally don't mess with possums. I mean, even though I live in town now, but even when we lived out on the farm, I would find ways to keep them out of places like the chicken coop and to keep them out of our trash. But always left them alone because they eat ticks.
Yeah, I like possums. Now raccoons, we don't get too many, which is weird. But possums,
dude, we got
and
coons
squirrels
around here that are. I saw the biggest coon in my life the other day. That thing had to be at 40 pounds. It was massive.
Huge. Especially like in town. Oh my God. Well, we live out in the country, but no, we don't. But yeah, dude, coons get huge. But no, we get our biggest wildlife that we get. I don't even call it wildlife. Sometimes our neighbors' goats will come over, and I'm like, all right, well, at least you're helping me with my yard bill, so I appreciate that. But
there are people here in Springfield that have gotten mountain lions on their Ring doorbell cameras.
I've been seeing that a lot of mountain lions. Well, I don't ever know now if it's a Sora or not. That new AI, man. That I think that's what's going to cause a lot of your sightings now. Is like,
yeah.
Because if you do post it, people are going to say, no, you're lying. You didn't see that. That's fake video. You're like, no, it came from my phone. I swear. And they're like, no.
You've got to be very careful when looking at video evidence anymore because it's so easy to fake it. Video, audio, and photographs.
Yeah.
AI can fake it all. So unless you know the provenance behind it, who took it, unless you trust them, or unless you shot it yourself, most video I would take with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Like unless I can prove that I know the person, I can verify this was not AI.
Like that video you sent me of that dog. That's not wasn't AI.
No, that was kind of heartbreaking, but
it was, man, because like the organs were missing and it was still warm. So whatever killed it quickly and then took off. And that's why I don't think it was a wild animal, because a coyote or mountain lion, they would have took the dog. It wasn't a big dog, it was like a beagle or something, like a hunting dog.
It was like a good sized beagle.
And just the organs were gone. And then when I was studying it more, like the skin's not ripped like a clean. It's not.
There's no claw marks on it.
No, it's not a clean. It's like bit and pulled back, and it's a big bite. And for people that are listening, go Google beagle. And then imagine it being bit in half. And that's pretty much what it was, the video. I'm not going to show the video because, censors and all that. But
oh yeah, you'd get hit.
yeah, imagine
we haven't
something
shown it
biting
yet
that.
either.
Yeah, I don't want to
because
show
of
it
that.
just because it's very violent. But yeah, the insides is bit, and it's like just the organs are gone, like the underbelly and the organs, and everything else is there. I don't know if the owner walked up on it and caught it mid-act and kind of scared it off, or what it
probably
was.
heard him coming, because
Yeah,
the story I heard is he was running the hunting dogs and he heard them just over the hill engage something. And he said all hell broke loose. And he said it took him like less than 15 minutes to get over the hill and down where the dogs had something. And when he got over there, the other dogs were scattered, and now found that one the way it was. So it wasn't like he was far away. It was just a few minutes away.
That's sad, man. That really, but I mean, that's dangerous for him too, being right there at the kill site.
Yeah, because if he was running beagles, he wasn't carrying a big rifle, because you don't run beagles to chase bear. And of course, down there, that was down on the Gulf Coast. They said they don't get many black bear down there. Beagles, you don't generally run anything bigger than like a raccoon or a possum.
Yeah,
beagles aren't big fighting dogs. So whatever he was hunting, it wasn't big. So I'm going to assume he was probably just carrying like a 22 or maybe something just a little bigger.
maybe. Yeah, nothing too. He's not carrying no big deer rifle or nothing.
Right.
I want to circle back to something you said, because it's stuck with me. Entering the houses, they'll come in your house.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, I've heard dozens of stories. There was a lady that said she would get up in the morning and go into her kitchen, and things had been moved around, and her peanut butter jar would be laying on the counter empty. And she's like, "Who the hell is eating my peanut butter in the middle of the damn night?" And she accused her husband of it. He's like, "I'm not getting out of bed, and I'm certainly not going to eat a whole jar of peanut butter." And they lived alone. She's like, "I don't know what's going on." And then one night, one night she got up to get a glass of water, and there's this thing with a jar of peanut butter going, and it ducked out the back kitchen door and left it open. And she's like, "Well, we locked our doors from then on."
Yeah, dude, that is insane, man. And so I'm just trying to imagine, right? 1,300 pounds, 10 foot. Let's say small. Let's do.
It's gonna have to gink sideways to get through that door.
To get in the mass in your kitchen, and this, I guess, like I know the Florida skunk ape stinks a lot. But I wonder, do they all smell like that? Because that would just stick in your house.
I think it's a scent gland. Gorillas have that scent gland. Chimps have that scent gland. I think they only do that either in distress or mark their territory.
Okay, because you would definitely smell it in your house. I mean,
Tim Coonbo Baker was telling me a story. I was talking to him on the phone one day, and he was telling me a story about him and you remember Bear, his from when they were with Bigfoot Outlaws. There was an elderly couple that lived out in the middle of nowhere that they knew, and they were gone and had been gone for a while. And so they went out to check on their house for him. And when they got there, something, because they didn't see it in the act, had dug underneath the foundation of the house up into the crawl space, and then busted through the floor of the kitchen and cleaned the house out of food.
God.
And he said it was big enough that even Bear could crawl through it if he wanted to, and he wasn't going to do it. So but the whole kitchen floor was basically busted upwards.
And that's why I tell people when they ask, and I'm like, dude, it's not
pretty sure that wasn't a raccoon.
No, and it's not a big dumb animal running through the woods. This thing's intelligent, man.
Very.
I've heard hunters, because in Texas, I don't know how it is in Missouri, but I know in Texas you can use deer feeders and fill them up with corn. And, deer feeders, even if you buy like a bucket, right? Like the old school bucket drops down and has the motor on it, you're going to have it at least 8 foot in the air. And, some feeders are 10, 12 foot in the air, and the lids are taken off and all the corn's eaten out of it. And it's like, yeah, maybe a coon can get up there and do that. But if you're bolting on the lid and all that to keep the weather out, for it to take the lid off, eat all the corn, and then put the lid back. And I've heard of so many stories like that. And it's just...
There's a farmer out by Ava, Missouri, about an hour and a half from here. I was talking to him, and he said, yeah. He says, I believe they're out here. And Ava, Missouri is in what's called in Douglas County. Mm-hmm. And the nickname of Douglas County is Booger County. Kind of.
Okay.
Well, he lives out in Booger County.
Yeah.
And he's like, I never really believed in the damn things until I started having problems with my feed. I'm like, what do you mean? He says, I'm feed my horses a mixture of oats and sweet corn. He said, and the sweet corn kept coming up missing. He said, I thought someone was stealing it. I thought someone of my neighbors was coming. He said, but I never told anybody I was buying it. I just put it in a locked feed box in the barn. Right. He said, till one day I was just sitting in the house waiting. He said, I was figuring I'm going to get somebody. He said, I sat there, he says, way into the night, just peeking out that window. He said, I saw one of them big hairy bastards come up, open it up, take out 2 bags of that sweet corn, close it right back down.
Keep going.
And walked out with 2 50-pound bags of sweet corn like it was nothing.
You know, that is just so strange to me. And it's just like that coming in your house thing. Like, and if you lock your doors.
They're intelligent. They're very
They
intelligent.
are. And if they want, and for people,
but that doesn't rule out the possibility of them still being just a great ape.
Right.
Look at that gorilla Coco. They taught her sign language, and she had independent conversations and understood like several thousand words. I mean, they are a very intelligent.
They
but
are.
if they're a remnant population of something like Heidelbergensis or Neanderthal or Denisovian, if they're a remnant population of that, they've got near human intelligence. But then again, chimps and gorillas have problem-solving intelligence. Whichever side you come down on, that remnant hominid or remnant pongid, either way, they're going to be very intelligent.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is like they're intelligent. So even, and as big as they are, you know, for the people that are listening and not really sure, you got to imagine this thing averages 10 to 12 foot. I'm going to say, what would you say, 1,000 to 1,200 pounds?
Probably in that ballpark. M.K. Davis, when we had him on the show, he said, if you look at the Patterson-Gimlin footage, what would you estimate her height and weight range? I said, well, as a cop, I would look at it and say she's probably between 7.5 feet tall. He goes, that's pretty accurate. I said, probably 400 to 500 pounds based on mass. He goes, that's where you'd be wrong. He said, when you look at one and see how big they are, what you don't understand is just how dense their bones and muscle is. He said, whatever you think is a normal estimation for a person, double it. He said they are incredibly heavy.
Yeah, and so if it wants to come in your house and it's mad at you, that door's not
coming in.
Not going to stop it, I don't think.
Right.
And that's what makes it scary, right? With the Gugway encounters, right? When they see you, they're coming for you because you're an easy meal to them, and it's like a train coming through the woods. Like you're not stopping it. I don't know how you would.
The account I talked to some folks down here in Arkansas, they were in War Eagle State Park riding horses, and one chased them out. They hadn't been on horses, it would have got them.
Yeah, and that's how fast they are, and that's insane, dude. And it's just every time I hear stories about them, it amazes me because it's never like the same. And that's how I don't see how people don't believe in them, because it's never the same eyewitness. It's always something different, and it's always them doing something different. I mean, you even told me I didn't know that they could crawl like a spider. Like,
wow.
Imagine that, a 10-foot spider.
I've talked to
coming
several
after you.
people that said they were down basically just hands and feet sneaking up on you. I've heard other stories of them low crawling like a person.
Exactly, and it's just you never know what it's gonna be, and it's just I mean these things I've read stories of them out in like from Texas and Louisiana, Arkansas, Florida, and all that, just snatching up pigs like they weigh 10 pounds, snatching up a wild hog.
Big thicket territory. There was a deer hunter sitting in a deer stand, and he saw a big boar, wild feral pig, walking, and he was just sitting there. He's like, I was thinking about shooting it. He said, just a flash out of the bushes. He said this gigantic Bigfoot snatched it up by the hind legs and slammed it into a tree like 4 times, threw it over its shoulder, and walked away.
And that's just, dude, and that's just one of those things, right? Did you remember that picture you showed on your show with the deer being up in the tree? Speaking of trees, the most recent one somebody had given you. Did you ever come to a conclusion on what did that?
You mean the one that was just the front leg?
Oh, was it the front? It was a buck.
We've
I know
had
that
a few.
Much. This was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, okay, I know which one you're talking about. It's entirely possible, because see, one of the things we always try to do is try to debunk and explain a photo before we make any what Robbie likes to call swag, scientific wild ass guess. But we were looking at this and we got to thinking, well, a mountain lion will sometimes take a deer up into a tree. A bobcat will occasionally do it. That's not canine. Dogs don't do that. Wolves don't do that. Coyotes don't do that. Bear don't do that. But we got to looking at it, and from the position it was in and from where it was already up in this tree, got the feeling that it was probably not safe for a big cat to do that. I don't think the branch would have supported it. It was like something just stuck it up there to get it out of the way, because the branch was way too small to support the weight of that buck. plus the weight of that mountain lion. So I'm
Right.
kind of on the side that something with an arm, with hands, stuck that up there for later to keep other stuff off of it. The people that took the photo just happened to stumble across it. But yeah, I really, after a lot of back and forth on it, I don't think it was a cat at all.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't rule out the possibility that a human would do it just messing with somebody, but it would have taken something with hands.
Yeah. And to mess with somebody,
And
That's-
it was high enough up that it
Yeah.
would have had hands and a step ladder if it was a person.
yeah, and it would have had to push it was a decent sized buck to push
it's
it up
probably-
there.
Probably 120, 130 pounds.
And just to deadlift it just straight up over it. I mean, unless you're in the gym every day, you're not doing that. And then
That's
to
a
mess with
fact.
somebody. And that's my argument with a lot of people. And they're like, oh, it's just somebody in a costume. Yeah, but 50 miles away from the nearest person, just wandering around in a costume is not safe or smart.
Someone tried to tell me that, the territorial marker where they'll break a tree off at about 7-8 feet. Yeah, you pull it out of the ground, then jam it back down with the root wad sticking up.
Yeah.
Someone tried to tell me, oh, that's just loggers. They do that to mess with people. And I've got a buddy, my uncle worked in the logging industry, and I've got a good friend who's been a timber cutter for like 30 years. He's like, yeah, we don't do that.
No.
He's like, it's like, if we will cut it off as close to the ground as we can. He said, but nobody's going to try to rip that root wad out. That one, it's too much work, and two, it just tear your equipment up.
Yeah. And then just to flip it over to mess with.
Yeah,
People
just to
don't
mess
go
with
to
somebody,
that
so we don't
lengths
do
to
that.
mess with somebody in the wood.
Right.
Yeah,
Especially where somebody may never see it.
Yeah. Now I can understand like a city or something where a lot of people are going to be. Okay, yeah, you put on a gorilla suit and run around. But way out in the middle of the woods, no, because there's too many people out there. Somebody might, take a shot at you, and then
Robbie and I were talking the other day, and Robbie said something that just made absolutely perfect sense. He goes, which seems crazier when you think about it, that Bigfoot exists, or that for the last 1,000 years there's been a global conspiracy of people completely quietly all over the world putting tracks out in the middle of nowhere, leaving hair samples, making vocalizations all over the world, literally on every continent but Antarctica. Yeah, for the last 1,000 years or so. The conspiracy would be massive, and for zero people to come forward and go, yes, I'm part of this secret society that perpetuates the Bigfoot hoax. Even if that was all there was to it, that's enough to right there tell you. Because I've been 2 days back into the Mark Twain National Forest and found tracks.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody going 2 days out there to leave a set of tracks in the hopes that someone's going to stumble across
in
it.
the hopes that someone sees it. Yeah.
It's insane to me. As a cop, we've got thousands of what I consider credible eyewitness reports, thousands upon thousands. Of course, we have a lot of hoax reports and a lot of reports you just look at and go, I'm not so sure about that. But there are tons and tons of reports that are very credible. Hell, I've taken some from judges, from surgeons, from lawyers. Like, okay, I'm going to tell you this story, but you've got to keep my name out of it. Because people with a lot to lose by coming forward with these stories. But I've taken so many of these credible eyewitness encounters. Hell, as a cop, I've sent people to prison on eyewitness statements. Yet suddenly, when it's Bigfoot, it's the eyewitness counting it doesn't mean anything.
Right. And that's the thing, man. And yeah, like you said, it's unless there's a group, new conspiracy unlocked, there's a secret society of Bigfoot hoaxers.
Secret society older than the Masons out there just planting Bigfoot evidence, messing with people.
They've been doing it so long, and now we've cracked the code, so they're coming after us now. No, I mean, and it's like that with a lot of cryptids, it's just they've been around forever. Dogman's been around forever, but I think it's gotten more popular now.
What I think confuses people is, like, say, for example, you just mentioned Dogman. The phrase Dogman didn't pop up until like the late 80s, early 90s with the Michigan Dogman. Same with Bigfoot. The word Bigfoot was not in our lexicon before Northern California with the Jerry Cruz incident. But prior to that, hell, you can go back 100, 150, 200, 300 years as far as you can find archives, and you can find hundreds of newspaper clippings from all across the United States from the early up to modern times, where they referred to something as a wild man.
Yeah, the wild man,
a hairy man, or they didn't know what else to call it. One I found just recently was from, I believe it was Ohio, where they described a 6-foot baboon raiding towns.
That's insane. 6 foot.
What does
baboon.
that sound like?
Right?
And it was from like the early 1800s.
Yeah, it's an early Gugway. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the earliest Gugway encounters I've found in print. The same thing with Dogman. If you can go past the Dogman name even farther in history, they called it a wolfman, they called it a werewolf, they called it a loop-guru. There's lots of different names for this werewolf type creature, and even farther back you get to Greeks and Romans, and they called it the cynocephaly.
Yeah. And that's what's cool, man. And there's a guy, I forget his name, but he wrote a book, or he writes books, but he takes old clippings of cryptids or Bigfoots and he prints them out and puts them in a book where you can read all about them. And I forget his name.
I've got a bunch of them. I should probably just start sharing those clippings on my social media.
That would be awesome. I'd read them for sure, because that's pretty cool, because you can go back and find all that and prove that, hey, this has been around a lot longer than what you think it has. I think until they lay a body on a table and say, hey, this is it, people are going to have the argument forever. And I'll get comments and stuff, man, that's not real. You're wasting your time. And it's like, yeah, okay, but is it not real outside of your little box because you don't leave your house? Or, you just had something happen and you're just convincing yourself it's not real. And that's what I always wonder about.
I don't know if it's going to let me share this, but there's one of them.
There it is. Let's see if I can. There we go.
That's Edinburgh, I believe, Ohio or Indiana. But there's only one place in the United States that actually spells Edinburgh that way. This isn't Scottish. This is from the United States.
Apocalipsis Gazette states that the habitation of some unknown animal has just been discovered in the upper part of that city, which has given rise to many strange conjunctures. The animal at the time of the discovery was in it, but made its escape. It's said by those who saw it to resemble somewhat the baboon, and from the size of the nest it is judged to be 5 feet in height and a carnivorous description, as many bones were found about the premises. The nest was nicely made of loose cotton between several bells. And I guess that says the pounds at the bottom.
I think that was the initials of who wrote the article.
Okay. Yeah, 1818. My office is a mess right now.
And that's just one quick, I just happen to remember, I've got one in this file.
Yeah.
Because we did a show on the Gugway a few weeks ago, and that's one of the clips I had on hand for the Gugway show.
And so in the Gugway, they've been around forever. So it's, the Genosko, which is the stone giant right there. They came from the not the Bigfoot War of 1855, but which tribe did they fight? They were in Canada, right?
The Cherokee. The Cherokee have the legend of what they call the stone giants. But the Genosko are actually mostly dealt with like Athabascan area tribal tribes. The reason they called them stone giants is these things realized that, flint bows and arrows hurt. And so that what they would do is they would take tree sap or mud and coat themselves in it and then roll in the loose gravel on the gravel bars. And those flint arrows would hit all those rocks and just break.
Bounce off.
So they figured that out. And then about the time that European settlers started trading firearms to the natives, according to the Athabascans, they nearly hunted the Gugway to extinction. They ended up fleeing north, and now in later years, they're kind of making a comeback.
That's what's saying. So we're about to have to fight them again, I guess. But now firearms are so technological. I don't know if we blow through them, but we try.
Well, the most recent book I released, Lakeview Man, Dead of Winter, I used Genosko in it.
Yeah.
Their upgraded armor, I thought was and that was just from my own. If they could do this, then I bet they could figure this out. And it was basically a primitive plate carrier, but it did the trick until they started really upgrading their guns again.
Yeah, I like that part in the book when they came in and they were just having to take headshots because everything was bouncing off of them. That was pretty cool.
Big heavy rocks.
Yeah, it was just pinging off. I mean, heck, you're my inspiration to build the 458. So maybe if something happens,
Thank you, brother.
I can defend myself. We don't know if it'll work, but we're going to try, if I have to. I don't want to kill one, but if I had to, because like you said, just because you see that one, it don't mean there ain't 100 more sitting there watching you, seeing what you're going to do.
Oh, yeah.
And especially with the juveniles and stuff, because the mama's usually not too far behind it or she's in the area. And I can't remember if I had a guy on or I got a message about a guy that had some juveniles on his property, and the mother was always right there, and he would never go near them.
They're very protective of their young. I mean,
they were curious.
And that's another hallmark of intelligence.
Yeah, they're very protective, but the juveniles are very curious, and they'll creep closer as long as you're not aggressive towards them. The mother's kind of like, okay, we'll see what you can do. But it's like a bear with cubs, right? You get in the way, the mother bear's coming, and there's nothing you can really do about it at that
You get
point.
between a mom and her cubs, and you're going to be a missing 411 pretty fast.
Yeah. The missing 411. I was talking about that the other day, and I was like, experienced people were going missing, not just inexperienced and, experienced hunters, hikers, stuff like that were going missing. And I want to read in more into that, but I think that's a bunch of different cryptids coming.
I think the
people.
missing 411, I think he's profiling because he picks cases that meet specific criteria.
Mm.
And that's not even all of the people that go missing in national parks. That's just very specific criteria. But I don't think there's any one cryptid responsible for the missing 411 because of the behaviors. However, with the missing 411, the hunters, a lot of those guys were very experienced hunters, lived, hunted in that same area for years and then disappeared without a trace. I think the missing 411 hunters, I think what happened with them is, like, I've talked to dozens of hunters in Missouri who said, I was in my deer stand and I had one in my sights and I just couldn't bring myself to take the shot because the part of me was saying, what if that's a guy?
Right.
He said they looked too human for me to feel comfortable taking the shot.
Right.
I think the missing 411 hunters took the shot.
Yeah, and I think that's why they might have hit that one and then all
and
hell
they
broke
either
loose.
Couldn't drop it or the rest of the family's like, hey, that ain't going to fly.
Yeah, and here they come. Because at that point, what do you do? I mean, but you hear, what was that one story? Man, it was creepy. I remember hearing it, and the guy didn't even shoot at him. He was just hunting, and the doe ran under his stand and laid down, and he was like, oh, this is weird. And he looked down at the doe and looked up, and there's this Bigfoot coming full steam ahead out of the brush at him. So he jumps down, he's running, and as he's running, there's another one running beside him, and he gets to his truck. He gets in it in time. I guess, I don't know how they didn't catch him. I think he said he was zigzagging. I don't remember verbatim.
Probably they didn't want him.
But yeah, they ran beside him.
They probably were just making sure he left.
And then, yeah, he said I think he said got in, turned it on, put it in drive and took off. And as soon as he did, he seen a hand reach into his tailgate and try to rip his tailgate off. And like you said, it's probably just a scare tactic. But
because generally 9 times out of 10, if one of those things is after you, if it wanted you, it'd get you.
Yeah, moving that quick.
They're way faster than we are.
Yeah,
and I hear all the time people talk, well, it chased me out of the woods. No, it stayed right behind you to make sure you left.
Make sure you weren't
because if it was really after you, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation.
No.
But yeah, there are cases where people have gotten away. I mean, that were legitimately being hunted. It was one guy I was talked to was up, I believe it was in Idaho, and he only got away because he dove off of a bluff into the Snake River, and he said it was right on him. That he was absolutely convinced that it was going to kill him. He said it was not slowing down. He said it wasn't a bluff charge. It didn't veer off. He said it had murder in its eyes. And he goes, I just happened to be close to, he was fishing on the Snake River.
Yeah.
And he said, I just jumped off this bluff into the water and let the current take me down river. He said, it stood on that bluff and screamed at me. He said, I don't know if it was just telling me to get out of here and don't come back, or if it didn't want to follow me in the water. He said, but I knew the current was going to take me down by the parking area where I had my truck. He said, and as soon as I saw the truck, I swam to shore and got the hell out of there. I left all that fishing equipment behind.
I don't blame. I mean, that, and man, and I'm wondering, like, when you get those violent encounters like that, they're not necessarily violent, but they are violent at the same time. It's telling you, hey, don't come back, because I think
you're in their territory.
Yeah, and if it wants you, it's going to take you, regardless
There was a fisherman I was talking to here in Bennett Springs State Park here in Missouri. It's just about 50 miles from here, and there's a trout hatchery there, and great fishing there. I've been fishing there my whole life. But anyway, I was talking to this old boy, and he's like, I'll never fish at Bennett Springs again. I'm like, why, man? I've always had great luck fishing at Bennett Springs. He goes, oh, it's not because the fish weren't biting. He said, I was on the back end of the park over by the wooden bridge. I'm like, yeah, I know that area. He said, I was sitting in a little camp chair at the edge of the river, just sitting out there. And he said, I had a whole stringer of fish. And he said, and I heard kind of the bushes kind of rustle, and I didn't think anything about it. He said, the hillside was behind me, and it was all pretty heavily wooded. He said, but I could see my car. I mean, it was just a little ways away. Mm. He says, I'm sitting there and I hear the bushes rustle again. And he says, and I turned and looked and he said, this thing, he said it was probably 7.5 feet tall, but it was crunched down, like squatting on, it was not like sitting on its haunches, but just bent at the knees with its butt almost to the ground. He said, it's just sitting there looking at me. He said, then it just very slowly reached down and grabbed my stringer of fish and took him out of the water and stood up and walked away. And I said, you didn't do anything? He goes, hell no, I was about to shit my pants. He said, once I heard it was gone, I pulled my line out of the water, I went to the car, and I got the hell out of there. And I don't fish Bennett Springs no more.
Yeah, I don't blame you. At that point, it's like, I'm just going to take these and go, and you go on your way. Thank you. And it's like, yeah, man,
I started chuckling. He goes, what are you laughing at? I said, it made eye contact with you? He said, yeah. He said, so it was looking at you like, I'm taking your fish and you're not going to do a damn thing about it, are you? He's like, when you think about it like that, yeah. It was just daring me to say something.
You just get in your car, human, and don't worry about what's going on out here.
Yeah. Thanks for the fish.
Yeah. I appreciate the donation to the Bigfoot Society, the secret Bigfoot Society.
I said it would have been funnier if he just reached out and rubbed you on the head before he walked away.
Yeah.
Like, thanks.
I think at that point he would have probably passed out. I would have.
Probably.
Yeah, I'm done.
I said, that Bigfoot had to be thinking, no one's going to believe you anyway.
Right? I wonder if that's what they think, man, when they do those things. Like, ain't nobody going to believe you're doing this. And they just do it and go on. Man, oh God, that's just funny. I don't even know what I was going to say. I lost myself. But
sorry.
It's awesome. That's why I like having you on, man. We go every which way you can think. So tell us about your books, man. Any new books coming out?
I have got one in edits right now. It's called Dark Frontiers, Devil of the Absarokas. It's about Bigfoot up in the Absaroka Mountains of Wyoming. Hopefully it'll be out very soon. Watch all my media for release details. It's about to finish edits, and then I got to wait on final cover, and then we'll have a release date. I've got 36 other books in print. You can find them all at daroberts.net, or you can find me under D.A. Roberts on Amazon or in most places where books are sold. And hopefully I will also, I'm working on my first nonfiction book.
Okay.
I'm doing a book. If you'd like to see the concept cover,
yeah,
I can show that to you real quick.
Yeah.
Let me pull that up real fast. Won't take but a second. This is the concept art for this book is going to be based on all of Robbie, mine, and Doc and Steve's research, and it's going to be a lot of the theories we've talked about on our podcast, but we're going to go into a lot more detail. It's our research, but I'm the one compiling it, and it's going to be called In the Shadow of Bigfoot, Following the Evidence, a multidisciplinary inquiry into Bigfoot's biology and behavior.
Like that, man. And that'll be out this year or next year? Probably
before spring. I've got to finish compiling all the research and get everything written and put together. But the framework's already there. I already know what all's going in it. And hopefully we'll have this one available real soon. But it'll be my first actual nonfiction novel.
That's awesome.
And hopefully it'll be hitting stores soon. It's going to be pretty heavy. It's going to be literally every theory we've come up with over the last few decades on Bigfoot. And I'm not trying to upset anybody, but if you're looking for theories where they come through portals or they can turn invisible or anything like that, you're not going to find it in this book. This is all law enforcement and medical based, where we examine the evidence and we look for physical explanations. I'm not going to say that what people call the woo. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, but I'm saying in 40 years of me going into the woods, I've never seen anything that told me it is.
Well, that makes me happy.
I've seen them vanish before my eyes, but that doesn't mean they turned invisible.
Right.
And we explain that in great detail. And you and I have talked about that too.
Yeah. And that makes me happy because I just can't get behind the train get on the train, not behind the train that they just, I don't want you to see me anymore. I think I don't know, man. My opinion is just it's more chameleon effect where they can just blend in better because they're in the woods 24 hours a day, 365.
Well, people from Doug Hychek to M.K. Davis to even Dr. Grover Krantz mentioned that their hair is unique because it has a clear center portion.
Right.
It's colored on the tips, colored near the root, and the center shaft is clear like a polar bear's, which allows it to pick up and redirect light.
Right.
Modern ghillie suits are using fiber optic cables laced in among it because it picks up and redirects the color of light around it. The best example of this, and we call it adaptive camouflage. The best example of this is the Paul Freeman footage. Paul Freeman is filming a large black male Sasquatch, and it walks out of the trees, and as he's filming it, he goes, "Oh, there he goes." And
that one. Yeah.
Once it realizes he sees it, it stops. It stops right in front of either a pine or a fir tree. And as soon as it stops, it just disappears. Scotty didn't beam it up. It didn't go into another dimension. It didn't teleport. It stops and vanishes.
Yeah.
It took on the color of green. And once he starts getting closer, he goes, "Oh, there he goes again." He starts moving. As soon as it starts moving, then you can see it. But when it stopped about that fir tree, the dark coat looked green, and he blended in just absolutely perfect.
Yeah. And that's my theory. I don't believe they're these crazy interdimensional beings, and I'm sure it's going to piss people off that hear it, but yeah, I think they're flesh and blood animals, man. I don't think they're...
My thing is if it could do all of that, and say even 1% of them took people, then they would have beat us back to the Stone Age generations ago.
Yeah.
Because there would be absolutely nothing you could keep them from to stop them from just walking through a portal into your living room and eating everyone in your house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just...
and there's no place else in the entire animal kingdom where something else can do that.
Right. And so why would they be so unique and special?
Right. The old saying goes that any technology sufficiently advanced appears as magic to those who don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing. We will often immediately go to a supernatural explanation for something we can't understand.
Mm.
But just because we don't understand it now doesn't mean that there's not a physical explanation for it.
Right.
We just may not have been able to yet. There was a scientist, John Mayberry was on the show last night, and he was saying there was a scientist who said, if it happened, therefore it's possible, and there's an explanation for it. And Bigfoot does walk into the woods and just vanish, so we know it's happening, but it doesn't necessarily mean he's turning invisible or go into another dimension.
And just sneaking
there's an explanation we haven't quite nailed down yet. And I think we're onto it with that clear hair shaft theory.
Yeah, we're getting there. We just need the body. But man, that's awesome. Yeah. So I'm excited for the new book, man.
I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah. As soon as, whenever you post, hey, it's here, I zoom to Amazon and I grab it and I'm like, all right, cool, man. I'm excited. You're going to have to send me an autograph copy, man. I'm over here.
I'll be happy to, brother.
Fanboy over here. But no, DA's such a down-to-earth guy, y'all. He's really an awesome dude. He really is. He's not... When I first messaged him, I was like, this guy's going to just blow me off and never even talk to me. And then like 30 minutes later, like, yeah, man, I'd love to. I was like, oh, no way. I ran in the room and told my wife, I was like, DA's coming on the show. She's like, what? And I was like, DA's coming on the show. And she was like, your show? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, that's awesome.
Brother, I'm a farm kid from just north of Lebanon, Missouri. There ain't no pretension in my body. I'm just a farm. I'm a Missouri hillbilly, and that's all I'm ever going to be. Just because I've wrote a few books don't make me nothing special. I put my pants on just like everybody else does.
Man, and that's what's awesome, dude, is that you're just down to earth like that. Because a lot of people they're not, man. You have any messages I've sent, and they're like, I ain't talking to you, and it's like, oh, okay. And we won't mention the ones, but they're especially in the Bigfoot world.
We all know one.
Yeah, and especially in the Bigfoot world, some people just. They don't care what you got to say.
I've ran into that a few times. Where they're like, go away, peon.
Yeah. Who are you to talk to me? But that's awesome.
You dare?
You dare message me? You dare waste my time with these peasant messages? And, but yeah, I'm excited, man. That last book was really good. I loved it a lot. I've read them all. I can't even think of the name sometimes.
Dead of Winter?
Dead of Winter. Yeah, that one threw me for a loop, dude. I thought, I'm not going to say.
Well, you got to keep folks guessing. I mean, if the books get predictable.
It made me guess. I thought Logue was going to be I didn't know what he was going to do, but he surprised us all. Let's put it that way. But yeah, so is the next one going to focus on Daniel or
around Declan?
Declan. Okay, I'm excited. Okay, yeah, because I love reading his too.
The one I'm getting ready to start is the next Wild Hunt. It's going to be called Codename Wild Hunt Leviathan Down.
Oh, okay. So we're going to go real deep then, Leviathan in it. So we'll have to figure out how they're going to kill him. But with that being said, Mr. DA, if you want to shout out your socials and let everybody know where they can find you and find your books and everything and tune in on your shows and all that.
You can find me on Amazon under D.A. Roberts, author. You can find me on my website, which is daroberts.net, and I'm pretty much on every social media as D.A. Roberts, author. The D.A. Roberts, author is like the universal across the board, just so it'd be easy to find.
Okay, awesome. And then shout out your podcast, man, because I loved tuning into that so that people can listen to you.
We host a podcast called the Nightmare Hunter Podcast. It used to be called DAX Machina, but I got tired of explaining what the name meant. But we changed it because the Nightmare Hunter Podcast kind of is more fitting for all of us, me, Doc, Steve, and Robbie, than DAX Machina. When the podcast first started out, was basically just about my writing. But the podcast has grown into so much more than that. And we do Nightmare Hunter Podcast at Wednesdays and Saturdays. The time was 8 p.m. on Central, but it's going to be changing to 7 p.m. Central because we were just picked up by these folks, the good folks over at the UnX Network. My camera is mirrored. We're going to be part of the UnX Network now, and it's going to get our podcast out to a much bigger audience. So we'll be going live for sure on Wednesdays with them at 7 p.m. and possibly on Saturday. But we also do another show we call Monday Madness, which is not about cryptids or anything like that. It's about us doing an exercise in collective story writing. The audience gets to participate. They get to help name characters. They get to help decide where the plot's going. And basically what I'm doing is live on the air, I'm writing a story, and it's an interactive storytelling where they get to contribute. Hey, let's have this character do this. Let's name this character that. And I'm building a story based on the audience cues. So far, the story's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. All right. And is that going to get published into a book too as well?
Eventually, when we finish that story, it's going to become a book. And what we're going to do with that one is, since everybody's contributing, so I don't want anybody to feel slighted like, oh, DA's just making money off this. I'm going to have that book as part of the DA verse because it does tie in. Mm-hmm. However, I'm going to list that one separately with my Amazon account, and all of the money from that is going to go to disabled veteran charities.
That's awesome. That's even better, man. I love that. Well, brother, I appreciate you coming on. I really do. Anybody wants to be on the show, shoot me an email. The email address is polarbearhoth@gmail.com, or you can reach out to me on TikTok and Instagram, polarbearhoth, or check out the Facebook page, Highway of the Hidden. Y'all have a wonderful night. Thanks, DA.
Thank you, sir.
And as the road disappears into the mist, the hidden waits for those brave enough to follow. Until next time, keep your eyes on the shadows and remember, every highway has its secrets. This has been Highway of the Hidden.